In this video, I want to talk about health, but in a much more simplified way. When we eat, we are actually just feeding the elements in the body. We're actually interacting with different elements. Now, it creates a chemical reaction, which then the body needs to transform that food into energy. Now, that energy is what allows us to move. There is two types of energy in essence when we look at food. There is only two simplified force which are at motion. You know, there is fire and there is water. There is the electromagnetism, right? Most people don't look at that when they think of food. They only think food, minerals, vitamins, fruits, vegetables. But no, there is electric and magnetic energy going on. And it's all food is an exchange of polarities between the two. The morning has the electric source, and the afternoon to the evening has the magnetic force. Now, obviously, during the day, which is in the afternoon, you're supposed to eat more masculine food. So we're talking about green foods, vegetables, things that will last longer, like such as carbohydrates, the long forms of carbohydrates. And you got, in the morning, you eat the electric type of food, such as the fruits, possibly the early proteins from the nuts, for example. Even though I'm not really a fan of eating too much nuts, but I do believe that we need just a little tiny bit. So when it comes to that, we need to know how to balance the body correctly. So everything is to do with polarity here. Polarity. Okay, so simplify. When the body feels cold, we understand, or we should understand, that there is a motion here. We know that when we feel too cold as individuals, we're missing an element. So we have to balance those frequencies. The body is just supposed to be at a neutral state. You're supposed to feel your hand and know whether you need to adjust in terms of food or exercise. Just by feeling your hands and your pulse, you're able to know what is needed for you at this present moment. Simply by observing yourself in simplified forms. Now, if you're a cool person, generally, you need more electric food. And if you're a fiery person, in essence, you need more magnetic food. Everything works in elements here. I think what we tend to forget is that when we observe the body, we don't actually observe it correctly. We don't identify it correctly. Even though it is a part of us, it is not us. It is only our car which allows us to move. It's the spirit, the car, or the car, however you want to put it. Now, okay, so in many manners we have to look at that perspective of the body, how the body functions as a life force. We have to see it as a mechanism that we can utilize correctly. So now, in the morning, to be honest, in the morning we should not even eat in the morning. The body should be fasting right until at least 12 p.m. This is why we call it a break fast or breakfast. So you break the fast you could break the fast honestly early in the morning, but when you break the fast a bit later, you allow your body to heal. And the longer you break your fast, the longer you take to break your fast, the better it is for the body. It has the possibility to rejuvenate. The moment you put food in your body stops digesting. So digestion obviously stops. Like, your body now has to work and clear out the new mess that you just ingested. Now, okay, so that is that. Eating correctly now is important. You must chew your food throughoutly. You must also bless your food. More so in a way that you can impregnate a thought into your food. Say you wanted to break away a particular habit. You want it to be much calm while you're eating. Then you would visualize the force of calmness in your food. Imagine that the food is bringing you comfort and calmness. As you imagine that, you create a sensation that the food will intake. Thus, your thoughts will impregnate and resonate back into you. So then that thought is then impregnating into the food. Then that food will allow you to be much calmer. Now, the food has to be alive. Live food allows you to penetrate the inner source of your mind and your psyche. We have to look at that in such a manner, because we forget that dead food doesn't digest correctly. Your body doesn't understand it, so it gets rid of it immediately. Whereas alive food is alive. You know, it creates a substance which your body needs. Your body needs, and the body needs it for the time being. See, the key is, right, because we are at this process now that we've moved up into a sun cycle. Let's put it into a simple form. There's a lunar cycle and there's a solar cycle. The solar cycle is more so where we eat from the source of the sun. And our bodies is in the process at the moment that is supposed to be transiting to a source where we don't need as much food. Our body is actually in that state where we're supposed to be transiting now slowly away from food. So this is why they're taking all the seeds. They're taking all the seeds away, because our body is supposed to shift now gradually. When I mean gradually, I'm talking about moving from a meat eater to a vegetarian, from a vegetarian to a vegan, from a vegan to a raw foodist, and then to a raw foodist to, you know, a liquidarian type person. We're supposed to be transiting slowly out, away from eating. But this obviously comes in time. We have to transcend in time. Because, why do I say that once again? It's because we are shifting from an Aquarian age. You can get yourself the book Spiritual Astrology by, what's his name? I forgot the name. But Spiritual Astrology talks about that specifically for the Leo type. The Leo type of person. The Leo type person actually is linked to the age of Aquarius, because each zodiac sign has an opposite sign, and obviously Leo, its opposite sign is Aquarius. So this means that it reflects, we get the sun, it's the solar cycle, into the age of Aquarius, technology, the air, so therefore means we get our life force from the air. The sun, the heat, fire converting into the air, we absorb. So this is the solar cycle. So we're in that sun cycle. And which means that in essence we're supposed to be transiting. So it is very important for us to eat less and drink more water, because your body's going to start adapting to the new energies that are coming in to this planet, and we must absorb this new life force, this new light, this new information which is needed for our transmission. Now, the lunar cycle is more so about eating, because the moon is magnetic. Now, the moon deals with the source of need. Obviously, it's a form of vampirism in a sense. Obviously, any form of eating is a form of vampirism in a sense. You know, we all vampire some kind of energy, just like the blood moon that occurred a few days ago. It's a form of extracting energy. So the lunar force deals with feeding, and it's more like feeding on a visual level. So we feed, we eat. So the fact that we need to eat a particular substance is a form of vampirism in essence. It's one of the lowest forms, and this is why the lunar cycle deals with that. So it doesn't allow you to perceive. Now, as you evolve, you begin to eat more food that are alive. And this is why the sun is alive, just like sprouted foods are alive. We're supposed to be eating more sprouted type of food. So then the body can adjust to then not need as much and then eat less. So everything is to do with electric and magnetic, right? Once again, okay, it's all about finding the balance, because we are in the month of we're breaking in between the month of Virgo and Libra, and these are the times where people get a lot of colds and flus. Now let me talk about the weather, because it's in relations to what we're talking about in relations to health. When we look at the weather, we see that the weather has changed, and the way the weather has changed is in relations to obviously what the Pope has been saying. Recently, the Pope has been talking about climate change. He's talking about climate change because one of the key aspects is that when we look at the weather, we can see that the planet is actually becoming warm. Now, as the planet is becoming warm, we find that we are in need of more fruits and vegetables and natural, we're being awakened. The sun awakens the DNA within us. And what we have to look at here is that because it does such a thing, he is informing us about something that is happening in the atmosphere. And the weather, obviously, they are playing with the weather in such a way that they're bombarding HAARP and chemtrails during the time when summer is at its peak, to stop as much heat from coming into the atmosphere. And they allow it to come out around the time of September now. If you notice, if you live in the Western world, I know that I've noticed that throughout the last couple of years. It's because obviously the planet is warming up in particular ways, and they're using various elements as climate change, but climate change in terms of us polluting the actual planet, which is actually the opposite. It's them that's polluting the planet, but at the same time, yes, we are adding to polluting the planet in a sense that we're filthy. When we look at what we do, we chuck rubbish in the bin and throw things in the earth and whatnot. Like, we're not looking after the earth. We're not literally resonating correctly to the earth. We're not, giving thanks to the earth. Literally, like, we should be connecting more to the earth and what it has to offer us. Now, so when we look at that now, we can actually identify the many angles and the issues of the planet and the weather and how and why they're stopping certain energies from coming in, right? And one of the ways to do that is by changing the formula and altering the weather. Now, we can also look at September and October as a time of balance. We bring balance to the body. This is the time where we're supposed to balance the elements, because we're in the Virgo and the air element. Virgo brings in the earth, which is the body, and Virgo governs the body and governs health, and Libra governs balance, and it governs the kidney, which is the source of chi. And what happens is, during that time, it's the time to calibrate the body back into its natural element, and thus the body would then fine-tune itself into the source of equilibrium, which will prepare you to cycle throughout the next year. So what happens is, during that time is the time where a lot of people get a lot of colds and flus. And you've noticed, and which I've noticed personally in the West, I don't know in other parts of the world, but I've noticed that people have been getting a lot of colds and flus and so on and so forth during this time. This is to do with the obviously what they do. They project out a lot more of these chemicals throughout the time of the period where the elements shifts. So during that time, we find there's a change in the weather. So we must notice that we have to observe the reality of how we're supposed to deal with it. We're supposed to cleanse during that time. We're supposed to cleanse during that time, clean out the body. I'm sure a lot of us during that blood moon were cleansing the body. I'm sure there was quite a lot of people which were doing a lot of cleanses during that time. So that was a very predominant and powerful time to cleanse the body, because then you fine tune the elements and you allow yourself back to normality, to equilibrium. See, our thoughts, how we think, is based upon the elements. Most people don't know that. Right. Again, let me simplify food. Food is linked to the elements. We eat fire, water, earth, and those elements are in correlations to how we think. The elements are separate from who we are, but the elements work within us to form man. Man is a composition of these elements. Now, when we separate thoughts from the elements, we are able to actually identify who we are as a soul. The soul doesn't know itself unless it knows how to balance these elements. Equilibrium is important. This is why we must observe the thoughts that are coming into our mind, because those thoughts are either a thought form of an elemental or an emotional astral elemental, which is manifesting into our composition, the matrix of the body, man, carbon. So once we can observe its function of force moving into us, we can then identify which thought is leading on to what. If I feel angry, that is the fire element. If I feel soft and emotional, that is the water element. If I feel earthed and grounded, stubborn, that's the earth element. If I'm in my head and I'm thinking and thinking, that's the air element. And each element has a composition of food type that is in relations to it. The clearer you get is the clearer you get to the air element, which is when you begin to fast, you actually interact with, remember I was talking about the sun cycle, you start to interact with the sun, and you actually need to eat less. You don't need to eat as much. And that food is being converted into light. And that light is force that your body needs. So when you fast, you actually tap into the air element. This is why you would feel spaced out. But then the true elements are fire and water. Those two elements are linking you back to the electromagnetism of the earth, which is when you, in the morning, you eat more the fruits type, and the evening or afternoon, you eat more of the earthly types of food, which is watery. In essence, it's masculine, but it's watery, right? In the morning, it's electric, it's more sharp. So it's sharp, it gives you a sharp texture. That's why most people get the sharpness from the fruits. The fruits allow you to cleanse. They cleanse your body, they remove toxins. So, obviously now it goes back into the body in terms of acidic and alkaline. Now obviously if you are acidic, you're going to need more alkaline food in your body. You're going to need more of the masculine energy, things that will be able to stabilize you throughout the day. Right? So, you'll need to eat more grounded food, more earthly food, food that will able to stable you so you'll be able to move throughout the day. Right, so now, once we understand the acidic alkaline, we have to see how this manifests in the body. We must remain more on the balanced state. And in order for us to remain on the balanced state, we need to know where and what side our body is. If our body is too acidic, then in that sense we need more alkaline. If our body is too alkaline, we need more acidic food. But generally we are more acidic.